for Coralie Fargeat, Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, We can't go as long as can, I'm sorry. Congratulations to you all. This has been, as I understand it, we all love everyone on the stage right now. So this has been a long road to make this film, and 7 years ago you were here with Revenge, a movie that was about externalized violence against women. And can you talk about what inspired you to tackle this subject matter and explore this story?
Basically after Revenge, I felt in a stronger place regarding, what I wanted to say regarding what women can have to deal facing violence. And I felt I felt strong enough to explore the next level, which is the deeper level and the inside level. And I was also had passed my 40s, and I was starting to feel myself, the pressure of the feeling that I was going to be erased, that I'm going to be, disappearing. And I felt like I really wanted to say a big scream, a big shout out that, we should make things different, and we should try and free ourselves from all this pressure that leads to what you see on screen, basically. Yeah, that was really the willing to express all the violence that I felt inside and to take it outside, to get a cathartic, I don't know, yes, gesture.
And cathartic. And Demi, Margaret, what was your reaction to this pitch?
Well, my first thought, besides it being an incredible script, was that this would either be something extraordinary or it could be an absolute disaster. And so that gave it the excitement of it being worth taking a risk, because it was also just such a unique way and so out of the box of delving into this subject matter. Mainly because it was really exploring the internalized way of violence that we have against ourselves and bringing it out into a physical manifestation to really be able to look at what we do with the harsh way that we criticize ourselves. Like if you really imagine taking the ways that we speak and putting it into a visual, to me, this is what that represents.
And what's so interesting, Coralie, is that it's a movie with very few dialogue. It's largely a visual story. Was that very important from the writing, that you knew that this was a story that you were going to really clearly tell, almost like a silent film at times?
Yeah, basically that's the way I write from the start. It was already the case in Revenge, where there was very little dialogue. And to me, the way to write my script is at the same time to write the story, but to write the way I'm going to direct and the way I'm going to create all the visual and all the sound, because the sound is really part of the experience. And by the way, I want to thank all the French crew who did an amazing job, and all the UK crew as well, because it was hard work, and everything you see on screen was made with passion, with a lot of passion. And I think, yes, like the creating, like all the visual elements that express that violence, to me was from the start, I knew it was what gonna create, the universe of the film. And that's why I wanted to write it on the paper, because I knew it was part of also the way I was gonna present the script, and bring the two characters and Demi and Margaret into the world that they were going to invest and create within it.
And I'd love to hear from Margaret about your reaction to this pitch, and in continuing that line of conversation, also how you and Demi work together because you play one character. What were the conversations you're having about that continuity of character?
I just like the idea that I was pitched this. Like, yeah, they were all like, you have to do it. And I was like, no. I think it was like one of those scripts that you read that's so singular and evocative and crazy that it was like an exciting thing to try to be a part of, and had like a real momentum from the beginning. And we both met with Coralie more times than anyone should meet with anyone in order to try to like figure out, but I'm kidding, because I think it was super important to her to find the most like complementary actors for each other, and I feel so lucky to have been able to work with Demi, and so grateful that Coralie did take the time to make sure that we would have the right fit with each other, because it was like 5 months of mayhem, and I had.
What were
the
you most
best partner
excited to
in
get
crime.
into when you read that script? What were you, all of you, from writing the script to reading the script? What were you most excited to do in making this film? Like what scene or what sequence that filled you with like maybe even trepidation?
Didn't fill me with trepidation.
Every scene. Very much so.
For me, I was really like nervous about the dancing. That was the hardest thing for me to do, because I am a dancer, but I don't dance like that, and I never will again.
But she did it well.
I tried really hard.
Yeah, she did.
And the prosthetic work in this film is exceptional, all the way to the climax with Monstro. What was
You're
it
right.
like?
I dreaded that more.
So who was in the suit at the end?
That's me.
Margaret just said to me backstage, "That's me with your face stuck on me."
Yeah. What?
And where did that image come from, Coralie?
That's a good question. I think I need a therapy for sure. No, I think like monstro is really, to me, yeah, the kind of, liberation. Like, I think the movie is all about, how it is to feel monstrous, whatever you look like. I think it's the look you put on yourself that makes you feel like you're a monster in the world, and being able to create like this real monstrous thing, which is the first moment where she actually loves herself, and she look at herself with, tenderness and, yes, and love. And it's the moment where she feels, okay, I'm ready to go outside. I want people to look at me. I have my place in the world. Was one of the most difficult things to create, because it was like creating a new being. Like no one was really knowing until we did it how it was going to work. But I think it's the part of tenderness and love that I put in the movie, because I think the movie is just about that. Like, they're going to love you. We are seeking for love. So I love Monstro for that.
We all love Monstro. Let's turn to the audience for a few questions. We'll start right there. How many hours just to put the makeup and the prosthetic work?
Both. I mean,
How long did you have it on for?
So depending on how much I had on for mine, it was anywhere from 6 to 9 hours of just the makeup, and then just whatever few hours we had left to shoot it. And also because it's very delicate. Once you start shooting with it, it can start to disintegrate. So you have to really stay.
And you have to cook with it at one point too. It's part of it. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's a much easier read on paper. I do know that now.
We'll go right here.
So, Coralie, you mentioned that at one time you had done a film, you read a script, and they said this will never get made because it's too violent and too gory. And you've also spoken
So the question is about the use of violence and gore, and particularly from a female perspective.
Yeah, I think like genre films and movie tended to be like very gendered, you know, like when I grew up as a little girl, those kind of movies were for the guys, you know, it was the boys, what the guys were watching. And to me, when I was watching those movies, I felt I was entering in a world that, you know, I was not supposed to be. And I felt that it was super exciting because I felt like, you know, when I was little, boys were allowed to do so much more stuff than a girl was allowed. You know, I grew up like that with, you know, the idea of being feminine, to smile, of course, to be delicate and gentle. And to me, to, I think, enter those kind of films when I grew up was really a way to kind of free myself for, you know, those category and to be able to totally express myself the way I felt it. And I think the movie is very much about that, like how society, I think, is still very much centered towards the male gaze, and there's still, you know, a lot of our social organization which is based around that. And I think the idea of getting the violence on the screen was for me really to express, I think, that the violence that it does to us. So I wanted to do it in a very non-subtle way because I think, the world is not subtle regarding this still.
There's a question right there. The question's about the parable of fame that the movie sort of explores as well. Once you get a taste, it's hard to leave it behind. Was that a consideration as well? So the notion of celebrity, Coralie?
To me, like, I think I decided to have this character when I started to write, be an actress, because I thought it was the best way to represent all the women, because I think the most heightened version of, you know, feeling that we need to be seen to be loved, I think, is an actor who put herself or himself vulnerable, you know, and looking for love through the eye of people.
Well, this is embarrassing.
The what?
I'm just kidding. Carry on.
Okay.
But I think it's interesting too in the film how Sue, you know, when Elizabeth becomes Sue and Sue manifests, Sue's goal is simply to do what Elizabeth was doing before. It's not to start over and start a new paradigm. Could you speak a little bit about? I'd love to hear from Demi and Margaret about that aspect of the character, because I think it's really interesting that that's how
she repeats the same pattern.
the cycle repeats. Yeah, even though this, you know,
It's called same dance, different partner. Like literally. But in life, how often do we do the same thing? We seek the same approval, the same validation. I mean, Sue could have said, I'm gonna have my own production company. I'm gonna have my own show. But that familiarity, that we all fall into patterns until we break them. And in this case, it's broken physically apart with a little bit of blood.
You had a front question right there.
Okay, can we just say the scene with the shrimp is by far the most violent of the whole movie. By far. I sat across from him take after take, stunned.
I think it's in a perfect place in the movie, because anyone who makes it past that scene, I think you're okay. But
more ridiculous and more outrageous as the film went on. And I just wondered, how much did you actually have to redo things because you were all cracking up so bad?
the question was just about how ridiculous Dennis Quaid's characters get. What was your direction for, I mean, not just Dennis Quaid's character, but I think your direction of the men in the movie in particular is very heightened in a certain way.
Yeah, it is heightened, but I'm often asked, so it's a caricature, and of course, it's kind of pushed, and all the buttons are pushed. But unfortunately, I don't think he's a caricature. I think like guys like that really existed, not recently, still exist.
Still exist.
And I was kind of amazed during the post-production when we started to show the film to a few people, how that shrimp scene make the guys feel uncomfortable, like, oh no, this is too much, like, and like, oh no, you're doing too much, Coralie. And I was like fascinated by the power of the shrimp, like,
Coralie, please.
I never felt it was such a violent weapon, for real. And
I hope you make men uncomfortable for a very long time. Thank you so much. Don't forget to vote for the film. Don't forget to scan this QR code, win a trip to Japan, Morocco, South Korea. Thanks to Intrepid Adventures, Intrepid Travel.